Welcome to ODT Rugby Chat. Thought we'd make a change this week. Thought we might come up to my local and talk to a few of the locals. We've got with me tonight, I've got the most famous dwarf in New Zealand, Big Jimmy D down the end of the table. I've got a guy here apparently plays for the All Blacks, Sam Whitelock. I've got Hayden Finch, who knows all about Central Targa Rugby. We want to talk about that tonight. And we've got Mike Kerr. Mike Kerr is going to tell us what he's doing here.
Yeah, no, it's right off the bat, PD, commend you on your panel tonight. Obviously, put a bit of a low point in Rugby Chat history last week with Gonzo and the Super Coach on here, but got a top-notch piss-up mechanic to my right, Sam Whitelock, and a national treasure, and Jimmy down the end.
Can you tell me a couple of stories just about Jimmy? Because a lot of people probably, I'm old school, don't know much about Jimmy.
Yeah, well, the last time I saw Jimmy, he was unconscious in a urinal, handcuffed to Carl Heyman's hand. So he's come a long way since then, but I'd like to commend you, Jimmy, on the way you've embraced your, obviously you're vertically challenged, and I've got a close friend called Mike Casey, he's a small man, but he's nasty with it. Oh, yeah. He's not a positive guy. I'm sure you've come across a few guys like that in your time.
Yeah. Sure.
So Jimmy, we'll drag you in. We'll drag you in now. Let's talk about this weekend. Now you've got your Spates hat on, which is good. The Finchie's happy about that. So test match this weekend. Any thoughts on that? You are our rugby expert tonight.
Oh, brilliant. I'm glad I read that just before turning up because, you know, my case manager at Wins that sent me here, it must have been her first day on the job. She didn't put that one on. But I think it'll be good for them. They're not going to get wet if it rains. There's a roof over there, so that's pretty good. There's nice lighting, good ambience. There's going to be some probably quite hammered students. So, you know, there'll be something to pick up later on.
Is anybody going to win this game?
Well, the team, I think, that scores the most points at the end, at the conclusion of the whistle thing, I think you'll find they'll be in front and they'll win. And it's quite an interesting game, rugby, because they're trying to go that way, but they're throwing the ball that way.
And well, it's interesting. Well, look, thanks for that insight. That's the Reverend Ike from the end of the table. Look, we've got Big Sam Whitelock. He's taken a couple of hours out of his busy day to come up and have a chat with us. So, Sam, what have you done today?
We've had training this morning and this afternoon, and then Super Coach James Collum gave me a quick text saying, got to get up here nice and quick, so got up here as soon as I could.
Mate, so just talk about the Whitelock family. 4 boys in one team, that must cause angst.
Yeah, it's...
Is that why George is leaving, obviously?
Yeah, it's awesome playing with the brothers and that, but it's probably more evident when it's split for backs and forwards, with Adam obviously being the only back, but get 3 of us in the forwards and start mauling and stuff. That's probably when we get to say good day a bit more.
Right, mate. We better bring Finchie in. Look, Finchie, now there's been lots of issues, and you're the ex-Bulls coach from Arrowtown. You just come down to need to work for the Spates boys down here. You were working up there. So look, there's been a lot of drama. I've written about it all year. There are a bunch of muppets running Central Targa Rugby, and now Clyde have lost all their points. Their managers have been sacked for 5 years. Look, what actually goes on with Central Targa Rugby?
Yeah, interesting, isn't it? It's pretty much, they have a meeting every couple months, and it's every old fogey from around each region just go there and they just try and push their case for their club. Don't probably look at the bigger picture. It's Central Targa Rugby, that's what I feel anyways, and yeah, what a shambles this year.
So mate, Clyde, I mean they've reduced the penalty. They're down, they've lost 12 points. Their coach and manager have been booted out for the rest of the season. Mate, they've still got to be hard done by, don't they?
Oh, real hard done by. Like they're amateurs, aren't they? They don't get paid to coach or manage, or and a couple of those guys, admittedly they weren't honest, and maybe the club deserved a big fine, but to stand down players, a coach and the management, that seems a bit weird when we're actually struggling to find coaches and people to give up their time to help out clubs. So yeah, I would think they should have lost their 4 points for that one game. Yep. for when they misbehaved, and maybe given the club a big fine, because they were all in on it. It's pretty hard to stand down a coach and then try and find another coach.
Something a little less controversial though, PD, is I saw you came in here on your ice skates, and where the Sharks have been sliding lately, I think we should get into that right off the bat, shouldn't we?
We'll put it this way. Look, let's get that big elephant in the room out. You want me to talk about it?
Yeah,
You're interviewing me.
Well, I'd like to say were you not in charge of recruitment? And a lot of it falls on your shoulders. You're great at ducking the big issue, but I think you've got to take this on the chin, mate. And like, what's going on? I'm a proud shark myself, been there before, an eel now, but you know, what is going on out there?
Well, put it this way, Dunedin have gone on this competition. I can just publicly say that they're gone. They lose to Alhambra Union on Saturday. They don't make the top 4, and there's only one person to blame for that, and that's Jack O'Day.
You should not be allowed back in that proud club. I think Jack O'Day's an outstanding rugby man, and he takes far too many pelters from yourself.
Let's briefly talk about the Eels, since they are the best club in the world and you now represent them. You're wearing 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 rugby jerseys, but let's talk about Eels. And I had a guy on the show, that Gonzo, last week. He was let's be honest, he was an embarrassment.
Well, just to be fair on Gonzo, obviously he buffaloed his bear on show, and he took his punishment well on Saturday night. He downed a jug like a winter's morning breath on the med. Geez, it was quick. So he earned a lot of respect in that capacity. But yeah, Gonzo's got a lot to learn, but he's doing a great job.
Sam, we'll drag you back in. I promise not to talk about rugby, so I won't. Let's talk about the Whitelock boys and your absolute passion for hunting.
Yeah, it started when we were at home, when we were about 5.
So you're shooting cows then?
No, we used to push the bales out of the hay shed, and all the possums used to run out, so we'd kill them and pluck them, and that was our pocket money. And it's just escalated to bigger and better things.
So who's the best shot out of the 4 boys? I imagine it'll be Adam the back.
Well, Mum's actually not a bad shot. She normally shoots the starlings at home for shitting on the roof. So
I'll tell you what, she'd have to be a bloody good shot, because if you think about it, you must cost like a fortune to feed. She can't afford to pay people's markup and retail for meat. She's got to go right to the source, you know?
yeah, well, Mum always jokes, but it's kind of serious. She sent us to boarding school because it was too expensive to feed us at home. So,
Yeah.
you know, raised us to a certain age, and then right, you're on your own, get out there. So, yeah.
So, and Jimmy, I would bring you back in just quickly, talking about the England team this weekend. I'm very, very disappointed that they've dropped half their team for last week. Can you talk me through the changes in the England side?
Well, obviously they've made the changes because the people last week didn't perform to what they were supposed to. Maybe they got the numbers wrong, they put on the wrong jumpers, or they wore it backwards, or one was dyslexic, so suddenly he thought he was supposed to be out the back and he was supposed to be at the front. I don't really know, but I guess they just got to mix it up to make some changes to challenge the All Blacks. What do you reckon, eh? Pretty good, eh?
Yeah.
I know nothing about rugby.
Pretty happy with that answer. So, Finch, we'll bring you up. Look, we'll get a bit of a prediction from you, mate. I was amazed. I was quite surprised this weekend, to be perfectly honest, that England have made as many changes as they had. I thought they played pretty well last week. So, where do you see this game on Saturday?
Oh, I think in the great stadium at Forsyth Bar, I just think, England won't be used to the running game that the All Blacks will play, and I think this is the week that the All Blacks are going to step up, and I think it's going to be 13 plus this week.
So are we going to talk about Ben Smith?
We were leading on to that, so let's talk about the fact that Ben Smith has now moved into his rightful position on the wing.
Yeah, no,
This is coming from a Highlander, of course.
Yeah, no. Great to see him at fullback. Great to see him playing his first test there at Forsyth Bar. So I'm thrilled for him. Great rugby player, but an even better man. So excellent.
Even for us, span ahead.
Yeah, no. That's not a bad club too.
This is the first time you've ever said that.
You'll never get me discrediting the club.
Right. So, Sam, we'll bring you back in. I know we shouldn't talk about rugby, we should talk about it a wee bit. I mean, the English have made some changes at lock. Does that make any difference to you? I think I read in the paper that you don't really care who you're playing against.
Every team has their traits and that, so it doesn't really matter who's playing. They're going to go out there and do everything. But yeah, there's been no changes there at lock.
They haven't changed anybody?
No.
That's how bad I am. Jimmy, we'll bring you back in quickly. So look, what are you doing down here? Because you are world famous. Apparently you write a bit of comedy, and you've been on Pulp Sport. A couple of my idols, apparently. What are their names?
Not quite Pulp Sport, but, well, I have been on Pulp Sport, but other shows. Yeah, obviously I was in the creation of the Jono Show and the John Ashley Show and stuff on TV3 that is now the Jono and Ben at 10, and I was one of the creators and also starring in Auckland Days, which started its life online and then became onto TVNZ, and nobody watched it. And so great, so they put it on really late because there was lots of sort of sexual innuendos in there, so they had to put it on really, really late, just before infomercials. And so now I'm back in Dunedin. It's good to be home. It's my hometown. Doing a bit of writing again, and looking after my old father, who's 85 and probably asleep right now.
Right, mate. So look, just finish with you, Sam, and then I'll come back to the boys just to finish it off. So look, like tomorrow it's captain's run. So look, what happens? The captain's run's pretty boring. And what happens on Saturday? That last 3 or 4 hours before the game. Is there much going on, or the boys have it pretty quiet?
Oh, it's normally pretty quiet, but there's also another big game on. Super coach James Collins had me down at Alhambra Union's training on Wednesday night. I think the kick-off is 12 o'clock.
I hear they haven't won a game in 6 or 7 weeks, and it's all down to Super Coach too. Apparently they're just walking out on him big time. What did you think of their team?
Yeah, it was interesting. Super Coach just wanted me to evaluate his performance, and we've had a good couple of chats behind closed doors, but we don't want to get into that now. He'll probably get a wee bit upset. So
you'll so before that, so that's what you'll do. But prior to the game, you'll go and see how Jimmy's team's perform and how he performs in his halftime speeches.
Well, he doesn't actually want me there, so after the feedback I gave, he doesn't want me involved anymore, so I'm not sure what I'm going to do, but I'll probably just be nice and relaxed. So
on the big game then on Saturday, I think I've already said that the Sharks will go down to Alhambra Union, but have you got any thoughts on that game?
Yeah, I've never seen either of those clubs play, so you'd be ahead of it than, you'd know what's going on a bit more than me, but off camera before you said a whole lot of different things, and then you got on camera and you've been lying. So
right.
I'm not sure if we can believe you.
Thank you. And look, so Hayden, we'll bring you. You're a bit of a club rugby aficionado. Look, the Bulls, they're blue Bulls. They used to be the blue Bulls. Apparently they've changed colours. The red Bulls now. Yeah. This is in Arrowtown. They beat Maniatoto last week. Do they go all the way and win that competition in Central Otago?
I hope so. We've got a good opportunity to, but it's. We're a couple of injuries away from having a.
Even with Drew Carmody, the world's worst coach coaching the side.
Drew's a passionate man, and he's a bit harder than me. So the boys will be training harder than I've trained them. So, I hope so. But it's come to top 6. There's all 6 teams. It's pretty close between Wakatip, Maniatoto, and Upper Clutha and Clyde if they can still get in there. So
right, and Mike, just to finish with you, look, the Eels, they must go all the way. They've only lost 1 game this year to the mighty Sharks when the Sharks were actually winning rugby. They must win this competition in a canter.
I'd rather talk about James Collum, and obviously not winning a lot of rugby at the moment, Jimmy, but he's winning the best haircut in Dunedin. Obviously, cry for help. The doc has started Edinburgh Realty and he's killing it, and Jim Senior's adopted him as his son. So James had to obviously go and get a pretty flash haircut to get a bit of dad time, really.
And just while we better quickly talk about Jimmy Collum, I just might ask Sam about this. Now, the jersey, the Crusaders jersey that young Jimmy Collum Jr. wore that night a few weeks ago when we were robbed by the Crusaders in the last second of the game, was in fact that your jersey?
No, it wasn't my jersey, but the quote I did hear at training that James Collum's haircut is real scucky, so James was actually the one that told a couple of players to get that out there, so I think he's starting rumours and trying to embrace his image.
Right, look, you've heard it here first. Young Jimmy Collum Jr. has got the worst haircut you've ever seen. He's got his own bowl. So if you're walking around town this week and you see Jimmy Collum Jr., you won't miss him. But just remember, it's the big games on this weekend. The Sharks play Alhambra Union, I think at 2 o'clock down at the miniature pony pit. Sharks go down on that game. But the big game at Forsyth Bar Saturday night, the All Blacks go out. They win this game. The Englands have shown us a lot of arrogance here by changing most of their side. And the All Blacks will win in an absolute canter, and we'll talk to you again next week. And just before we go, can't do the Form 15 properly, but I thought I should just work out who the changes were. So on the Form 15 for this week, we've dropped Matteo Malupo from Harbour. He's been replaced by Corey McFadden from Alhambra Union. Lockie Moore comes out at second 5. He's been replaced by Kaitu Kafano, who had a storming game for Dunedin on the weekend. Brycey Morgan's got to go because he didn't play that well, I didn't think, for Kaikorai. He's been replaced by Kieran Moffat from Tyree. Cam Rutherford won the game for the Kaikorai boys on the weekend, so he comes into first 5. Solomon T-Pole comes in for Sione Chu. Sione Chu's been out for a couple of weeks for varsity, so Solomon T-Pole from Pirates gets his first run for the season. And we move up into the locks. We've dropped Angus Cameron from University. He's been replaced by Mike Colville from Alhambra Union. The Alhambra Union boys are going pretty well, and that's the only other change, and we'll be back with you again shortly.